Sao Saul beat Chuki Heinous Jang Ko. Jisen Zamin Kahar Kona Jaladiada. Asma Main Agti, or Insaniat Cut Seb Dargai T. Tab Wo Chail Gay, Lekanab Wo Wapaze Hain. Surfak, or Wo Apni Saflei Hai. Ekbacha, Magri Ya Hamla Nahi, Ya Pagam Hai, or Ya Pagam Surfanzano Kulia Hai. Wo A Nabi Orit. Jiski Ankon Main Sadi and Kagamna, Base Camp Kabichai, or Bina Kuch Kahe, Ikonzani Foj and Kahathan Main Apna Bacha Thamadia. Uskiawaz Hockey Tea, Lekankan Fad Dean Wali. I say Bachalo Unts. Lekankan Hain Wo, or Kyan Dias Apna Kunaikan San Ko. Yes, Surfek Bachanai. Iski DNA Main Wores Chupahai Jo Pori Galaxy Ko Juka Sakta Hai. Orab Wo Sab Isi Chat Hain. Marn Kulia, Lu Jane Kulia, Chupain Kulia, Main Wo Fajin Hunjisa Yezamadari Mili Hai, Ab Faisla Merahai Bakeon, Yasab Kuch Konadun, Yesurf Kahani Nai, Yanakam Raz or Ekne Jang Kagaz Hai, or is Dafa, Inzano Se Umid Hai, Tum Isi Miss Nahi Kar Socked. It happened at 2:03 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. One moment. The moon hovered above the earth like it always had. Serene, eternal, a glowing sentinel in the night sky. The next, it was gone. Not eclipsed, not shattered, just gone. Across the globe, silence reigned for exactly 3.7 seconds. Then the world erupted. Newsrooms flared to life, red lights blinking, anchors scrambling to read from hastily written teleprompters. Breaking news, they shouted in trembling voices. The moon has disappeared. Live feeds showed sky watchers blinking into telescopes that now faced only cold, empty blackness. Amateur astronomers streamed confused videos. Children cried. Parents lied. Maybe it's just hiding behind a cloud. But no one could lie for long. Seismographs twitched. Tidal charts scrambled. The oceans hiccuped, and the waves behaved like drunk giants, crashing into coasts with no warning. Emergency sirens screamed in coastal cities. New York's harbor boiled. Tokyo's skyline shivered. Karachi saw its beach swallowed and spat back up within minutes. In Venice, flood sirens howled into the night. Airports grounded flights without instruction. Planes turned midair. Satellites began drifting from predicted orbits. Somewhere above Earth, the International Space Station ran silent. The crew staring out into the void where the moon once hung, their faces pale under sterile lights. In Geneva, at CERN, scientists stood frozen in front of monitors, trying to explain what physics no longer accounted for. Dr. Helena Roussel, astrophysicist and Nobel laureate, was pulled from her bed at 3:16 a.m. She stared at the data, mouth slightly open, her fingers trembling. Mass displacement on a planetary scale? This isn't natural. It's an intervention. But who could intervene on such a scale? Social media boiled with theories. Was it a government experiment gone wrong? A cosmic accident? An alien warning? Religious leaders took to podiums and live streams, quoting scripture and calling it a divine reckoning. The sky is not ours command, said one bishop. This is the hand of judgment. In Washington, D.C., the president held an emergency meeting in the Situation Room. Military advisors talked of space-based weapons. NASA scientists rejected that idea. There's no crater, one of them insisted, voice tight. No debris, no gamma burst. It didn't explode, it vanished. The president turned to the Secretary of Defense. Are we under attack? Meanwhile, in the streets, panic spread like wildfire. In Berlin, sirens blared. In Lagos, crowds prayed. In Delhi, traffic froze as people stared skyward, not knowing what to look for anymore. A teenage girl in Seoul live-streamed her rooftop sobbing, whispering, "It's gone. The moon is gone." Within an hour, the video had 40 million views. People clung to their phones, desperate for answers that never came. In Moscow, deep within the Russian Academy of Sciences, an old radio telescope technician noticed something no one else had yet. The stars near where the moon should have been had shifted, just slightly, almost imperceptibly. He adjusted the frequency. His heart stopped. A low signal hummed. Rhythmic, intentional. In the Australian outback, A group of indigenous elders gathered not in fear, but in deep, solemn knowing. One of them whispered, "She has given something away." That morning, the sun rose over a world utterly changed. The tides refused to follow prediction. Animals behaved erratically. Birds flew in circles. Whales beached themselves. Even pets refused to eat. Scientists on every continent worked around the clock. Data streaming through chaotic video conferences. The United Nations held an emergency global summit. No one had answers. And then the real news broke. A military outpost in northern Canada reported a breach. A humanoid figure had walked in, unharmed by security drones, unbothered by rifles. Tall, armored, eyes glowing like dying stars. She spoke no Earth language. She carried a child, and she handed it to a human soldier. "Protect him," she said, her voice not through sound, but directly into their minds. From what comes next, the moon was gone, but something else had taken its place. The moon was gone, and with it, so was certainty. In the days that followed its vanishing, humanity floundered in confusion. For the first time in centuries, science had no answers. Telescopes scanned the void obsessively, searching for debris, gravitational trails, or anything that might explain the sudden absence of Earth's only natural satellite. But there was nothing, just a patch of sky darker than anything instruments had ever recorded. No echo, no residue, no explanation. At first, scientists tried to reassure the public. The laws of physics haven't changed, they said in press conferences. We just haven't found the right model yet. But even the most seasoned experts couldn't disguise the strain in their voices or the bags under their eyes. They were chasing shadows in a vacuum that no longer followed the rules they once trusted. And as the silence grew longer, theories began to multiply. In the United States, a faction of astrophysicists proposed that the moon had slipped into a localized wormhole, a natural cosmic anomaly never before observed. The theory spread fast, comforted those who wanted to believe in science's continued dominion over the cosmos. But detractors were quick to point out its flaws. A wormhole? Without any gravitational ripples? No prior indicators. Meanwhile, across Asia and parts of Europe, political leaders demanded accountability. If this is not a natural event, thundered the French Prime Minister, then we must consider the possibility of technological sabotage. Accusations began flying. China, the United States, Russia, each pointing fingers at the other. Secret weaponry, space-based cloaking technology, an experimental drive system gone wrong. Theories that once belonged to sci-fi pulp were suddenly being discussed behind closed doors in war rooms. But then came the leaks. A hacker collective known as Ghost Circuit released a cache of intercepted transmissions from a Canadian military base. Distorted audio, garbled files, fragments of classified logs. But one sentence stood out, clean and terrifying. She walked in with a child and said, "Protect him from what comes next." The world latched onto that phrase like a lifeline and a noose. Conspiracy forums exploded. Thousands of amateur sleuths went frame by frame through blurry satellite images, infrared overlays, and radio frequencies. A rough sketch of the mysterious figure began circulating. Tall, humanoid, female, clad in armor of unknown material. In her arms, an infant that glowed faintly under ultraviolet scans. No one knew what species he was, or if he was even human. Religious leaders seized the moment. The moon was taken as a sign, said one Vatican cardinal. This child is a harbinger of either salvation or judgment. Others went further. The Antichrist has been delivered to us in disguise. Riots broke out in cities from Manila to Madrid, triggered by dueling sermons on street corners. In contrast, a growing number of people began worshiping the child. A new movement called the Watchers of the Void declared the moon's disappearance an act of mercy, that humanity had been spared a greater doom. The child, they said, is our chance to be chosen. Governments were forced to go on damage control. In an international broadcast, the President of the United States stood stiff at the podium, flanked by generals and scientists. "We do not know where the moon is," he admitted, "but we are investigating every possibility. I ask the people of the world to remain calm, trust in human cooperation and science." But it was too late. Trust had already begun to erode. In neighborhoods across the globe, people whispered that their leaders were hiding the truth, that the moon hadn't vanished, it had been taken, that the child wasn't just a messenger, he was a reason it had disappeared. And the deeper people looked, the stranger things became. The tides weren't just unstable, they were mutating. Some coastal waters began exhibiting strange bioluminescence. Insects in certain regions had shifted their migration patterns as though following a signal. In Greenland, an abandoned weather station picked up a new radio frequency, coded, pulsing like a heartbeat, coming not from the sky but from beneath the earth. Dr. Roussel, now one of the lead advisors to a UN scientific council, gave a cryptic interview on the fourth day. "It's not just the absence of mass," she said. "It's the absence of history. Satellite logs that once recorded the moon's orbit are blank, as if it was never there at all." That revelation hit the world harder than the disappearance itself. How could the moon never have existed when every civilization in history had charted it, worshipped it, written poems to it? How could memory itself be tampered with? And that's when people began to ask the question no one wanted to answer. What kind of force has the power to erase not just a celestial body, but the memory of its existence from time itself? From deep space observatories to street-side mystics, from powerful AI prediction models to ancient scrolls, everyone scrambled for meaning. And through it all, one image kept surfacing: the woman and the child. Some saw her as a herald, others as a thief. But the child, he was something else entirely. Governments refused to confirm where he was, but rumors spread. He was being kept in an undisclosed location under 24-hour guard. Some claimed he hadn't aged a day. Others whispered that he never cried, never blinked, that when one soldier got too close, his heart stopped and started again only after the child reached out and touched him. Inside a hidden facility, the soldier who first received the child sat alone, replaying the event in his mind over and over. He had no name for her, but when she spoke, it wasn't in words. It was in a feeling, a desperate, infinite sorrow. A mother's love stretched across galaxies. He had asked her, right before she vanished, "What is he?" Her answer had chilled him deeper than the vacuum of space. "He is the anchor. Without him, your world will drift into the dark." Now, across the planet, the world stood on the edge of chaos. Faith collided with science, power with paranoia, and logic with fear. With the moon gone, gravity had shifted, and so had reality. And still no one knew the truth. Only one thing was certain: something was coming, and humanity was not ready. The Earth had survived wars, plagues, and near-extinction events, but never this: the disappearance of the moon. In every language, across every news outlet, one question echoed through streets, bunkers, labs, and living rooms: where's the moon? And still, no one had the answer. From low Earth orbit to deep space, humanity launched every eye it had into the void. Space agencies across the world synchronized in unprecedented unity. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, JAXA, ISRO, and even private corporations like SpaceX and Blue Origin pooled resources to track gravitational disturbances and electromagnetic anomalies. Satellites were retasked. Telescopes were recalibrated. Deep space antennas turned like sunflowers toward the black patch where the moon should have been. What they found was not silence. It was noise, a low, pulsating frequency too structured to be natural, too alien to be understood. In Houston, the Johnson Space Center's main control room had been converted into a global command hub. A holographic model of the Earth and surrounding space rotated silently, displaying real-time data from every probe, satellite, and radar system. Red warning markers dotted the screen like blood. "We've lost 3 of the Apollo-class probes," a technician whispered, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. "Gone?" the director asked. "No debris, no signal loss." One second they were transmitting, the next they weren't there. Other probes lasted only minutes before vanishing without a trace. Some recorded strange distortions, space bending in on itself, like a reflection folding inward. One probe sent a final image that terrified even the most seasoned physicists, a perfect sphere of nothingness, not black, not void, but absence, as if something had erased not just a matter, but the concept of space itself. Back on Earth, the anomalies multiplied. Communication satellites began failing in clusters. GPS systems glitched, clocks went out of sync, and weather patterns fluctuated in erratic ways. Magnetic readings in the upper atmosphere began to pulse unnaturally. One experimental satellite designed to monitor quantum field fluctuations detected what appeared to be artificial ripples in space-time, originating not from deep space, but from inside Earth's orbit. By day 10, paranoia began replacing scientific optimism. In Beijing, a classified summit of physicists and military advisors reviewed the possibility that someone or something was generating an event horizon within near-Earth space. It's not just that the moon disappeared, one of them said. Reality around where it was is unstable, distorted. A UN briefing leaked hours later confirmed the worst suspicion yet. Time was behaving differently near the site of the disappearance. Atomic clocks placed on satellites in lunar orbit had begun ticking out of sync with Earth's time by microseconds, then milliseconds, then full seconds. This wasn't just spatial manipulation. Someone was altering time flow. Humanity had faced many existential threats, but this was different. The laws of the universe were no longer a stable foundation, and in that instability, trust in everything began to crumble. Religious extremism surged. So did scientific nihilism. Protests erupted in major cities with slogans like, "The sky is broken and time is a lie." Some claimed the world had already ended, and they were living in a simulation reboot. Others turned to the child, the alien infant who still remained hidden under highest level security, as their last hope or their greatest fear. Inside a secure facility buried beneath Norway's Arctic tundra, the child was kept under observation. He didn't cry. He didn't sleep. He didn't age. Sensors attached to his body showed impossible readings, a core temperature that never varied, brainwave patterns that shifted in dimensional loops, and a cellular structure that seemed to regenerate in real time. Genetic analysis revealed sequences unknown to earthly biology. Each attempt to decode them ended with corrupted data, or migraines, so severe they induced blackouts in researchers. But stranger still, the child reacted to cosmic phenomena before they occurred. When the third space probe vanished, he turned his head sharply east, 2 minutes before the signal loss. When the time dilation was confirmed near the moon's last location, he blinked once slowly, as if expecting it, and on the 13th day he spoke, not in language, but in waveform, a frequency emitted from his chest that bypassed microphones and resonated directly in the minds of the observers. The veil is thinning. For words, no more, but enough to freeze the hearts of every scientist in the room. Elsewhere, things were getting worse. In South America, the ALMA Observatory detected a scar in the microwave background radiation of the universe, an unnatural anomaly, moving slowly toward the solar system. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a planet. It was a void like a black hole without mass, folding space but giving off no gravity. In Siberia, an old Cold War aero radar station picked up ghost signals, repeating sequences from ancient star maps, updated to show the solar system without the moon. In Cape Town, a young physicist monitoring cosmic rays detected bursts of information, coded, mathematical, and deliberate. They were patterns previously found only in quantum encryption. She decoded a portion. The center cannot hold. Still, the scientific community pressed forward, desperate for understanding. A new mission was greenlit. Prometheus 1, a crewless, AI-controlled drone designed to pass through the void where the moon once was. It carried every sense of humanity could build: electromagnetic, gravitational, subspace, quantum. It launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome and entered the dark zone on day 20. What it sent back shocked even the skeptics. The interior of the void was not empty. It was alive. Swirls of geometries that defied three-dimensional logic shifted and twisted. Shapes that should not exist rotated in ways the mind couldn't follow. And at the very center, something moved, a structure, not natural, yet not mechanical. Organic? Divine? It resembled a cradle. And in that cradle, something stirred. Prometheus 1's data stream suddenly reversed direction, not the signal, the time. It began transmitting its launch sequence in reverse, countdown ticking back toward zero. Then came one last transmission. He is not the first. The drone disappeared. Panic gripped Earth in ways not seen since the Cold War. Financial markets collapsed. Governments activated continuity protocols. Air travel halted. Food supplies were hoarded. And behind every locked door, every whispered conversation, one question persisted. What did she give us? Back in the Arctic facility. The child sat upright. His eyes glowed faintly blue. Then, for the first time since his arrival, he looked directly into the observation glass and smiled. Around the world, every deep space antenna rang with a single signal, broadcast in every frequency known to science and many that weren't. A simple phrase, "They have found him." It was day 27. The child hadn't moved for nearly 40 hours. No pulse, no breath. Scientists believed he was dead until he sat upright at 3:01 Greenwich Mean Time and uttered a single word, "Awaken." Exactly 7 seconds later, the Earth shook, not from tectonic plates or volcanic activity, but from a vibration, deep and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something ancient beneath the crust. Seismographs across the globe lit up with irregular pulses centered in a location few would have expected. The empty quarter, deep within the Rub al-Khali Desert of Saudi Arabia, what was once dismissed as myth, an endless sea of dunes hiding nothing but sand, was now the epicenter of something impossible. The world's eyes turned to the desert. Satellites showed thermal patterns shifting beneath the sand, massive heat signatures moving in unnatural paths. By daybreak, entire dunes had collapsed, revealing smooth, metallic structures beneath. Not metal as humans knew it. This was a material that didn't reflect sunlight correctly. It absorbed light in fragmented prisms, like broken memories frozen in steel. Within 24 hours, a coalition was formed. Scientists, military observers, and language experts gathered in a secure perimeter around what was being called Site Zero. The first team that entered found a shaft descending over a kilometer into the earth, lined with carvings no one could identify. They weren't writing. They weren't symbols. They were something else. Moving etchings, shifting as they were observed, patterns that rearranged depending on who looked at them. "It's not language," said Dr. Farouk al-Masri, Egypt's leading symbologist, as he stood before the shifting walls. "It's thought. It's a structure designed to interface with conscious perception itself." At the base of the shaft, the team found a chamber, massive, circular, and humming with energy. In the center, a monolithic object stood. 20 meters tall, black as starless space, humming with low-frequency tones that seemed to resonate inside the bones of the observers. The artifact was dubbed the Keystone. Samples taken from its surface vaporized before analysis. Cameras malfunctioned. Even AI-assisted scanning systems reported errors like input contradiction. Four-dimensional surface cannot be rendered. Then someone noticed the most terrifying part. Carved at the base of the Keystone, in a language older than Sumerian, older than Earth, was a single recognizable shape. The moon. But the moon was depicted not as a celestial body, but as a prison, dozens of concentric rings wrapped around it, each marked with what appeared to be containment glyphs. And at the very center, bound in chains of geometric light, was a shape that had no name. All theories collapsed. The moon wasn't just a satellite. It had never been a natural object. It was a construct, a cage, and now it was gone. The implications shattered centuries of belief. Earth's tides, its stability, even the rhythms of its own axis, all had been manipulated to mask something ancient, and that something was no longer contained. Panic surged. Factions within the scientific coalition began to fracture. One group, led by the American delegation, believed the Keystone was a control node, something left behind by an extinct civilization to monitor the prison moon. They argued it could still be used to track, or even recover it. Another faction, led by a European-Egyptian team, believed the Keystone was a warning, not a tool. "We should not activate it," Dr. al-Masri insisted. "It's not asking us to find the moon. It's telling us to forget it." But something else was happening around the world. People began dreaming of symbols, the same ones in the shifting walls in Site Zero. Children woke up drawing spirals and glyphs they'd never seen. Migraine, seizures, and sudden deaths began spiking in people within specific brainwave patterns. Whatever the keystone was, it was broadcasting, psychically, constantly, and the child had begun to change. His skin emitted faint pulses of light that matched the artifact's frequency. He no longer ate. He no longer slept. He simply stared upward, as if watching a sky no one else could see. He whispered one sentence every hour like a chant. The seal has broken. The drift approaches. In Washington, London, Beijing, and Cairo, intelligence agencies scrambled to suppress the truth, but it was already leaking. Footage from Site Zero appeared on dark web forums. Audio of the Keystone's pulse was turned into music, shared across social media, triggering strange hallucinations in some listeners. And then the second revelation came. In Antarctica, another signal was detected. Beneath the ice shelf at Lake Vostok, teams rushed to investigate. What they found wasn't another keystone, but a mirror, a smaller structure, identical in shape and pattern, submerged in ancient freshwater. Only this one was cracked, damaged beyond repair. And inside it, encased in resinous crystal, was a skeleton, not human, tall, narrow, elongated skull, fingers with 7 joints, and embedded in its chest, an empty cavity shaped perfectly to hold an infant-sized being. The implications hit hard. The child wasn't just alien. He was one of them, or perhaps something made to be like them, a piece of a long-forgotten puzzle spanning millions of years. Theories exploded. Some said the child was the last of a race who had built the prison moon. Others believed he was the key to reactivating the full network of planetary seals. But some, the most fearful of all, insisted on a darker truth. He was not the jailer. He was a jailer's son. And now his father was free. At Site Zero, the keystone began vibrating more intensely. Earthquakes rocked the surrounding dunes. A beam of dark light, opposite of illumination, a cancellation of sight, shot upward from the monolith, piercing the sky. Across the world, observatories confirmed a new mass entering the outer solar system. Not a planet, not a comet. Something with structure, miles long, angular, silent, coming home. The world was unraveling. Nations that once stood as beacons of stability had descended into chaos. Economies crashed. Borders hardened. Martial law was declared in over 50 countries. Religious cults and rogue scientific sects fought in the streets. People built shrines to the missing moon. Others begged the child, now known globally as the Starborn, to speak salvation into existence. But he remained silent. And above them, Site Zero pulsed like a dark heartbeat. The keystone now sent out a continuous signal, inaudible but felt, not in the ears, but in the soul. Governments were losing grip. Whispers of global annihilation grew louder. If the moon's disappearance was connected to the cosmic object now entering the solar system, what some are calling the Devourer, then Earth had little time left. Amid the panic, a final mission was authorized, the Odyssey Protocol, a joint operation composed of the world's leading astronauts, physicists, xenolinguists, and AI engineers would launch toward the epicenter of the void, where the moon had last been seen. Their goal, investigate the anomaly, interact with the keystone's frequency from orbit, and, if possible, find the moon. The ship was called Aurora 1, a next-generation vessel powered by quantum gravitic drives and shielded with tech reverse engineered from alien materials discovered beneath the Arctic years prior. Its launch was a global event. Billions watched. Many believed it would be humanity's last attempt to grasp meaning before the end. Aboard the ship was Dr. Lena Call, astrophysicist and linguist. She had spent the last 2 months decoding fragments of the artifact's data patterns. Her theory? The moon wasn't destroyed or taken. It had been phased out of perception. Not moved, but veiled. Hidden in a fold of reality outside human detection. A cosmic failsafe. A lockbox for something that should never be touched, she told the mission crew. But the box is open now, and we need to understand why. Aurora 1 passed through Earth's upper orbit and entered the anomaly zone. The void wasn't absence, it was pressure. Light bent, time stuttered. And then they saw it, the moon, still there, still intact. floating in a translucent sheath of space that rippled like water. Instruments confirmed it. The mass, the orbit, the gravitational pull, it had all been redirected into a pocket dimension. And the keystone on Earth was the only thing keeping the veil stable. But the veil was breaking. Closer to the surface of the moon, they discovered it had changed. Massive runes now glowed across its surface. Lines of light circling craters, mountains, and buried chambers. Structures emerged that no telescope had ever seen. Towers, domes, antennae, like a city half buried beneath lunar dust. At the heart of it, a chamber. Aurora 1 launched drones. They entered through a newly revealed fissure. Within minutes, the feed reached Earth. Inside the chamber, they found a message, not a written one, but projection, encoded in gravimetric pulses. It was a memory. An alien figure appeared, tall, robed, face hidden beneath a mask of mirror crystal. It spoke directly into the minds of those watching. You were never alone. Your moon was not your own. We placed it here, not to watch you, but to protect you. The figure lifted its hand. Behind it, a vast star map unfurled. Systems darkened one by one. Civilizations blinked out like candles in the wind. A being born before matter, a force without form or mercy, once hunted us across galaxies. We could not kill it, so we bound it, trapped within a fabric of localized reality, anchored by moons like yours. Each a seal, each a warning. And then the image of the child appeared, but not as he was now, smaller, glowing faintly. A conduit. This child is the last of our kind, born not of blood, but code and stardust. His presence is the key, but his awakening is also the trigger. Silence followed, and then a final phrase, one that chilled the bones of everyone listening. He was not given to you. He was hidden inside you, and now he remembers. Back on Earth, the child rose from his chamber in Norway, no longer appearing as a toddler. His form had elongated. His eyes now glowed with shifting constellations. He walked to the observation window and placed his hand on the glass. Every screen in the world went dark, then lit up with a single image, the moon as seen through the veil, followed by one final sentence. I did not bring him. I was born to stop him. At that exact moment, the object approaching Earth, the devourer, shifted course. It had seen him, and it was coming faster. The truth, once a whisper, was now a roar.